In this movie, we're going to add these stylized shadows right here that appear at the intersections of each one of the petals, and we're going to express them as skewed gradients. And so I'll go ahead and switch over to the relatively shadowless version of our logo, and I'll go ahead and zoom in as well. And the first thing we need to do is draw a rectangle. And so I'm going to go ahead and select the rectangle tool, which you can get, of course, by pressing the M key. And I'll drag from this point right there, make sure your smart guides are turned on, up to this point. So we just want the corners of the rectangle to snap exactly into alignment. And if you're working along with me and you want to make sure everything's the way it should be, your width value, as you can see in the heads-up display, needs to be 119.98 points. And the height needs to be 38.96 points. And that'll tell you that you have an exact snap. All right, now we're not really seeing the rectangle at the front of the stack, and that's because I'm working on the wrong layer. And so I'll go ahead and drag this gold square on the far right side of the layers panel up a layer to the star logo like so. And just to make it that much more obvious, I'll change its fill to black. All right, now what we need to do is skew this guy so that he matches the angle of the other shapes. And we can do that using the shear tool. And so I'll go ahead and select the shear tool from the scale tool flyout menu. And then I need to position my transformation origin at the lower left anchor point. And so I'll click in order to move that target to that location. And then you want to drag up on this bottom right anchor point while pressing the shift key until you snap into alignment. And as you can see, the axis value, the second one is 90 degrees. We're seeing a skew value of negative 17.99. That's not really exactly what I want. So I'm going to try that again, this time by Alt or Option clicking on that lower left anchor point in order to bring up the shear dialog box. Our axis should be set to vertical, so that's fine. Notice our last shear angle was 18 degrees. We just need to switch that to negative 18 degrees and press the Tab key in order to get exactly the skew we're looking for. And we know this is the right value because it matches the skew that we applied to the top of the shapes in the first place. At which point, I'll go ahead and click OK to accept that change. All right, now we need to carve this path outline so that it appears only inside the purple and green shapes. And we're going to do that by switching to the black arrow tool, which you can get by pressing the V key. And then I'm going to click right there to select the purple shape, and I'll shift click on the green shape to select it as well. And then I'll copy those shapes because we're going to lose them in just a moment by pressing Control C or Command C on the Mac. Now shift click on the black shape to select it and bring up the Pathfinder panel. Now it's tempting to go with something like intersect, but if you click on that, you're not going to get anything, and that's because these two paths never overlap. So I'll just go ahead and click OK in order to acknowledge that message. The one we're looking for is one that I maligned back in Chapter 17, and I really do owe it an apology. It's crop. This guy is going to work perfectly for this specific step in the project. And so go ahead and click on the fourth icon in the second row in order to crop those shapes away like so. And then go ahead and hide the Pathfinder panel. Notice that we end up with a group, as we can see by the word group, on the far left side of the control panel. I don't want that, so I'll go to the object menu and choose the ungroup command. And then I'll shift click on the purple shape and the green shape to deselect them, and I'll press the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac to get rid of the other stuff. All right, now I want to bring back the original purple and green shapes. And so I'll just go up to the edit menu and choose paste and back, or you can press Control B or Command B on the Mac. All right, now I'm going to click on this shape right here, the cropped one in front, and then I'll shift click on this guy as well. And I want to combine them into a single path outline by going to the object menu, choosing compound path and choosing make, or you have that keyboard shortcut of Control 8 or Command 8 on the Mac. And that'll go ahead and fill them with the same color. Now, I don't really want green, I want a gradient. And so I'll go to the window menu and choose the gradient command to bring up the gradient panel. And I also want to expand this panel, so I'll click on this little double arrow icon to the left of the word gradient a couple of times. Now, we're going to be discussing gradients in all kinds of detail in a future chapter of this course. But for now, just follow along. Go ahead and make sure the fill is active, the green fill, and then click on this horizontal gradient ramp in order to fill the shapes with the black to white gradient. Now, I just happen to know that the angle for this gradient should be 90 degrees because we're going upward, plus 18 degrees because we want to go up and to the left. So just enter 90 plus 18, and that's going to give you a total of 108. All right, now the problem is, even though you can see that the gradients now match the angles of the shapes, they're going in the wrong direction. That is, they're going from white to black instead of vice versa. So you can flip things by clicking on the reverse grading icon right there inside the gradient panel. All right, so we no longer need this panel, so you can just go ahead and tuck it away or switch back to the stroke panel. All right, now I want to modify how it interacts with the other shapes. And so I'll click on the word opacity up here in the control panel, and you want to keep the blacks and drop out the whites, which means switching the blend mode to multiply. And that's another topic that we're going to investigate in a future chapter. However, that's going to be in the mastery course. But for now, just go ahead and choose that, and you can see that the whites totally drop out. Then I took the opacity value down to 30% in order to produce this more subtle effect here. All right, now I'm going to zoom out by pressing Control-0 or Command-0 on the Mac. And of course, we need to power duplicate these gradients. And I'm going to do that by bringing back the guides layer. And then I'll switch to the Rotate tool, which you can get by pressing the R key. And I'll Alt or Option click at the intersection of those two center guides in order to bring up the Rotate dialog box. And I'll once again enter 360/5 in order to divide 360 by 5, which produces an angle value of 72 degrees. And it dawns on me that this isn't looking right at all. This is not where these shadows belong. And that's because I moved the star down 18 points. So I'm just going to cancel out of this dialog box here. And what I'm going to have to do is create yet another guide that's 18 points lower in the document. And so the first step is to go up to the View menu, choose Guides, and turn off the Lock Guides command. Then press the V key to switch back to the black arrow tool and click on that horizontal guide. That's the easiest way to pull it off anyway. And you'll see once you move your cursor away that it is selected. Then press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac to bring up the Move dialog box. Notice the horizontal value is 0, the vertical value is 18. That's exactly what I want. And now it's up to you. If you just want to move the guide, then go ahead and click the OK button. If you want to create a duplicate, click on the Copy button. In my case, I want a duplicate, so I clicked on Copy, and then I'll return to the View menu, choose Guides, and choose Lock Guides to once again lock those guidelines down. All right, now I'll click on either of these shadow paths right there to select both of them because I joined them into a single compound path. Then I'll press the R key to switch back to the Rotate tool, and I will Alt or Option click at the intersection of my new center guides, and I'll change the angle value to 72 degrees because by now I know that's what I want. And as you can see, everything's exactly where it should be. So I'll go ahead and click the Copy button or press Alt-Enter here on the PC or Option-Return on the Mac. And then I'll press Control-D or Command-D on the Mac 3 times in order to fill out the rest of the logo. All right, now I'll turn off the Guides layer and I'll switch back to the black arrow tool and I'll click off the path outlines to deselect them. And that is how you create skewed gradient shadows that exactly match the petals inside of our star logo here inside Illustrator.